I left my farm in Northeast Texas for Australia, and here's why. I'm often asked, does rotational grazing and raising sheep 100% on pasture work in desert conditions? To get the answer, I visited one of the driest states in the USA, then flew across the ocean to the driest inhabited continent on the face of the earth to bring you Raising Sheep on Pasture, Australia. The purpose of this trip was really to explore the implementation of the regenerative principles that I promote in an environment that is less than friendly. Each of these farmers is navigating in a dry environment and still doing so in a way that really benefits soil health and produces a highly marketable finished product. And what is more is that each of these farms has developed unique marketing streams. The unique marketing streams that are really and truly necessary in today's agricultural environment to make a success out of life in agriculture. Today I'm taking you with me on my tour of the Bellevue Dorper Stud in Millmerran, Queensland. Sophie represents the entire Curtis family as she shares with us their 6,000-acre operation, which features organic cropping, but more notably, some of the best pasture-raised Dorper genetics in all of Queensland, as well as a commercial flock that produces award-winning carcasses on pasture only in some of the most difficult conditions. Upcoming is a 14-minute overview of a full 45-minute tour, which is available absolutely free using the link in the description.
We've got about 6,000 acres, some of that is leased country, but we've probably got about 2,000 stud ewes, and we also have commercially probably about 1,000 ewes. Mum and Dad have been here since '94. I went to uni and did a dual degree in agribusiness and applied science, and I finished that in I think about 2006, and I did 3 years of business banking as a graduate banker before I returned home to the farm in 2010. So I've been here for I think 13 years.
While the Curtis family is a multi-generational sheep farming family, Sophie's parents transitioned from raising merino wethers, which would produce a wool product, and pivoted their operation into a Dorper stud.
Opportunity arose for Mum and Dad to get some imported embryos out of Africa, so they formed a joint venture with Peter van Schalkwyk, and we got some really fantastic stud quality animals, and that's how the stud formed.
The Dorper sheep is labeled the Angus of the sheep world. It is a hair sheep with the unsurpassed ability to produce fast-growing lambs and a meaty carcass. While many wool breeds have been developed to meet commercial industry standards, few hair breeds have. In light of the failing value of wool as a commodity, sheep producers are increasingly making the transition to hair sheep and choosing the Dorper for its ability above other hair breeds to produce fast-growing lambs with a carcass that satisfies commercial standards. In the beef cattle world, not every herd is pure Angus. However, nearly every herd has Angus influence. So it is with the Dorper. Not every successful hair flock is purebred Dorper, but nearly every successful hair flock has Dorper influence. Bellevue is a Dorper stud. A stud operation is one in which superior animals are produced to go into the market as breeding stock that is specially selected by other farmers, who will join them to existing flocks to improve the quality thereof. What is your rainfall?
Yeah, so what do we say about a 24-25 inch average rainfall, and we said this year we've had about 8.6 inches for the year, so we're in a particularly dry situation, but like driving around, I think the country looks in pretty good condition for the rainfall we have, and I put that down to, you know, looking after our root systems and plants and trying to really build the organic matter and topsoil in our country. Yeah. Our focus has always been on a balanced, meaty, early maturing animal that does well in hard conditions.
Have you had to do any supplementing with the Drought?
These guys pretty much no. They've got a dry lick feeder. So this is what we sort of set up for that whole Pat Colby situation, but now we just do our 3 magnesium, protein and sulphur, and then a bag of salt. The environment I work in is harsh, so I want them to hit the ground. I want them to lamb unassisted, full pregnant, lamb unassisted, raise as many lambs as possible and turn them off as quickly as possible. That's what we want.
And so what we're looking at out there with respect to the condition of the animals, are we looking at grass only, or what kind of inputs go into them?
Yeah, so pretty much they're like everything there is a grass input. Like I mentioned, we've grown faba beans in the past, and they're a good source of protein and carbohydrates.
Bellevue Dorper runs its genetics on pasture only, growing specialized multi-species pasture mixes, which includes high-protein plants such as fava beans, field peas, turnips, etc. Between careful pasture management and rigorous genetic selection for the very best suited animals for their climate, the Curtis family has created a truly superior stud animal.
And I think that's one thing I would say is I feel like, you know, when we first got our genetics from Namibia, yes, they were fantastic, you know, structurally, blah, 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 but we've done a lot of work to make them Australian relevant and to suit our conditions, like obviously the feet, the shoulders, you know, the carcass, doability.
What are some management practices, just practically, that you put in place for the benefit of soil health?
Yeah, so I guess for us it's all about, you know, ground cover, plants. We use regular rotations with our sheep, you know, looking at the paddock and going, well, what grass do we have here? You know, how long have the sheep been there? Balancing that with the parasite cycle as well, and managing the type of livestock that is on that crop. Are they pregnant? Are they lactating? You know, are they lambs that we need to get a beautiful finish on before they go to the abattoir?
It is estimated that on an average pasture, over 30% of the water that hits the surface of the ground rolls off and is not utilized or absorbed by the soil. Sophie prioritizes root systems below the ground and ground cover above the ground. The root systems in the ground increase soil organic matter and thereby increase the water retention capacity of the soil. Ground cover creates a canopy for moisture and an absorbent surface for the precipitation that does come.
Yeah, look at these field peas. Yeah, this has probably had 10 millimetres of rain on it. Wow. Yeah.
And they're just producing stuff.
Yeah, and as you can see, so like I was showing you that planter, that's the little groove that it creates through this grass. And so this is some vetch here, so that's another legume. There was a bit of barley. That's obviously really come to nothing. And then there's also some medics and clovers, turnips, all sorts of stuff that was planted. It just didn't get the rainfall, unfortunately, but it's surprising on how tough like these field peas were, and they'll be a tasty treat for the sheep.
And they'll just eat the pea pods.
Yeah, they'll just annihilate. Yeah, they'll eat all of it. Yep. We just buy like all uncoated, untreated seed, no GMO.
You can see, so these are not all field peas. These are some are vetch.
This one here is a vetch.
Okay.
This one here is some barley. You know, look at this here. Like, look at that. I call that beautiful top layer.
Exactly.
Of soil that we're trying to build. Like, this will all break down eventually. Exactly. And it's also the water holding capacity. So when we do get a shower of rain, it's not going to run off, it's going to sit, it's going to be absorbed. And it's, to me, like, you know, it doesn't look like much, but little sheep poo there. But this is, to me, this is exciting, and this is the way that we want to be farming. I just see, you know, having those root systems in the ground 100% of the time is key. We're a bit like you, we constantly moving the sheep, you know, probably around every 2 weeks, just to get on top of that parasite cycle. So I think we've got over 50 paddocks on the place.
The pastures we just toured, featuring the multi-species crops, are supporting not only Sophie's flock of rams, but also a flock of ewes, some of which are lambing at the moment. In the full 45-minute version of this tour, Sophie shares her lambing percentages, how she manages the flock on pasture during lambing, and what she expects out of each ewe as far as productivity year over year. Sophie cites that her Dorper lambs on the multi-species pasture can achieve a daily growth rate of 650 grams. This translates to a whopping 1.4 pounds per day. She cites that in drier conditions, she's looking at a daily growth rate of 450 grams, which is a gain of 1 pound per day per lamb. The Bellevue genetics are award-winning, taking first, second, and third place at ECA, the Royal Queensland Show in Brisbane, Australia. The award-winning carcass condition was achieved through pasture only, with no grain supplementation. Sophie cites a 52 to 54% dressing percentage, or carcass yield. This is an especially important figure for meat-producing animals. Carcass yield, or dressing percentage, is essentially the meat, or what is left over, after the skin, head, and internal organs have been removed. A high-yielding carcass means higher profits for those who are raising an animal exclusively for meat production.
When I'm weighing lambs for the abattoir, I love to feel the lambs, look at them, look at that brick-shaped carcass. Like, you want a nice, you just want a brick. You want a balanced, a beautiful top line. You want to feel it firm across the top, and you just want that width, length, and depth. We do an eye muscle depth, and then we also do like fat as well. We get all the measurements on the same day, so we can rank that you're the best, you're the worst, this is everything in between. And sheep genetics takes into account born a single, raised a single.
Sophie cites here that she uses eye muscle depth as a significant measurement of productivity within her breeding rams. The eye muscle is essentially the backstrap of the animal. The thickness or depth of the eye muscle correlates to muscling and meatiness throughout the sheep's body. A ram with a thicker eye muscle will produce offspring with a higher yielding carcass. An increased muscle depth has also been linked to increased fertility in breeding ewes, meaning a ram with a thicker eye muscle will have greater chances of producing a more fertile female offspring. While this is the end of the 14-minute tour, I highly recommend you see the link in the description for the full 45-minute tour. In it is more information on Sophie's breeding program, her organic pasture practices, as well as a behind-the-scenes look at the annual Bellevue Dorper on-farm ram sale.
I think $1,200 up there on the right, away we go, John.
One of my biggest takeaways from the Bellevue Grazing Company was the data-driven approach that Sophie takes to raising her flock. When it comes to raising meat animals, this data is absolutely essential. Knowing your dressing percentages, carcass yield, and how your animals perform, no matter what kind of inputs you provide, is essential. Another principle of Sophie's that really resonated was that of the bottom 5%. Identifying and removing the bottom 5% of your flock, no matter what, will year over year produce a higher quality set of animals. This is one of 4 episodes from my Australian tour covering sheep farming in dry environments. Go to shepherdess.com/Australia for a quick link to all of the available episodes.